So don't let anybody tell you that it's not loving if you stand flat-footed and speak the truth about this issue of homosexuality. What's not loving is to look someone in the eye when God says they are in jeopardy of an eternity in hell and merely wink and nod at their sin because you're afraid of being called names.
But does that mean that you're saying, because I want to be clear and I don't want to interpret anything that isn't, does that mean that you're saying that you believe that being gay is a sin?
So when you see civil partnerships being sanctioned, you think that's wrong? Presumably.
Well, yeah, I think it's wrong, but I'm not going to bash those people. I'm not going to be against those people. They're good people. They're good people. They're good people.
It's like you are judging the person, aren't you? Aren't you?
Well, to me, I'm not the one to judge and say, you know, who's bad and who's good. Otherwise, you'd have to go through everybody, you know, every one of us and say, well, you know what, I got some pride, or I had an evil thought the other day. Those are sins too. I don't know that God is judging sins on different levels, but we pick out that one. So, I mean, our message, if you listen to my message, they're about lifting people up. And so it's not, I really talk about the homosexuality when we get on the interviews. It's an issue that, it's a hard issue, and I don't know that I fully understand it.
So then let me ask you a question, because when you came on Piers Morgan's show a while ago, he asked you about homosexuality, Christianity, homosexuality, and almost every time we have a pastor on, it's a conversation we have. And you are known for these uplifting ceremony services, and you talk to a lot of, what's like 45,000 people who attend. And I always wonder, when you say homosexuality is a sin, and there's a bunch of people who clearly are gay who are in your church, you're calling them sinners. I mean, it's the opposite of uplifting, I would think.
It does, but one, I don't necessarily focus on that. I only talk about that on the interviews. I don't necessarily focus on that. I only talk about that on the interviews.
So don't you think, though, that with the country struggling with increasing acceptance of all its citizens, and you're for basic fairness for everybody, that in situations where, like, we're trying to pass these marriage equality bills in certain states now, that you have an important voice to lend to that, especially to kids who are maybe worried about who they are and where they fit in the community?
Well, I think I have an important voice, but I think I've been good. I think part of my, if you want to call it success, is I've stayed in my lane, and my lane is lifting people's spirits, and there are issues that good Bible-believing people see on both sides of the fence.
So my question is, when you're talking to your 45,000 people in your service, and some of them are gay, you're saying to them, you're a sinner.
Well, Soledad, first off, in my services, I don't cover all these issues that we talk about here.
I get that,
and
but
so
I mean,
I am, and I don't understand all those issues, and so, I try to stick on the issues that I do understand. And I know this, I'm for everybody. I'm not for pushing people down. Obviously, I've watched the story on bullying and stuff, other things like that comes from it. So I don't know where the fine line is, but I do try to stay in my lane and, lift people's spirits.
A question coming in from Black 185 in our digital community said, do you think, I'm assuming, LGBT community and the black church can coexist?
Absolutely.
Let me push that question, because that's sort of an obvious yes. Church ain't turning nobody away. How should the black church and LGBT community exist?
I think it's going to be diverse from church to church. Every church has a different opinion on the issue, and every gay person is different. And I think that to speak the church, the black church or white church or any kind of church you want to call it, are all the same is totally not true. And all gay people are not the same. The types of relationships that are afforded are based on the types of people in each individual case. Yeah. And LGBTs of types and sorts have to find a household of worship that reflects what your views are and what you believe, like anybody else. And the church should have the right to have its own convictions and values. If you don't like those convictions and values, you totally disagree with it, don't try to change my house, move into your own and establish that sort of thing, and find somebody who gets what you get about faith. And trust me, I've talked to enough LGBT, they are not all the same.
Oh, for sure. Any more than all Christians are the same.
No.
But how do we, first of all, has your thinking evolved on this?
Evolved and evolving. Evolved and evolving. Evolved and evolving. evolved and evolving. Well, it's a complex issue. It's a real complex issue, and it was in the Bible days. Sexuality versus spirituality. Paul spends a lot of time wrestling back and forth, trying to understand, should a woman wear her head covered? Should you cut your hair? I mean, they grappled back then, and we're grappling now because we are humans, and we are flawed, and we are not God. Yeah. Once you understand you're not God, you leave yourself an out clause to grow.
I know that's right.
Yeah, to grow.
Hello, I'm Michael. To support this kind of content, you can just do 2 simple things. 1, subscribe and click the bell icon. 2, click on new videos and watch them until the end. Your support is what motivates me to keep making videos. Thanks for all your support and encouragement.
Just to play devil's advocate, I mean, do you feel like
that's hard for you because you're so sweet.
But do you feel like, you know, you have a moral imperative to speak publicly about some of these more controversial issues?
No, because we try to be like Jesus. Very rarely did Jesus ever talk about morality or social issues. He was about the deeper things of the heart.
Every article I've read about you guys says he declined to discuss gay marriage.
Yeah, it's a misquote because I do discuss it, just not the way people want me to. When it comes to homosexuality, I refuse to let another human being or a media moment dictate how we approach it. Jesus was in the thick of an era where homosexuality, just like it is today, was wildly prevalent. And I'm still waiting for someone to show me the quote where Jesus addressed it on the record in front of people. You won't find it because he never did.
Argument number 1 is the argument that Jesus never addressed homosexuality. This is a very popular approach. People will look at this and they'll say, well, you're a Christian, which means you're a follower of Christ, right? Well, yeah, I'm a follower of Christ. Well, as a follower of Christ, it seems very strange to me that you're making a big deal out of something that Jesus never mentioned one time in the Gospels. Not one time. And for most Christians, they hear that and we're just sort of taken aback. And, you know, our response is usually something along the lines of, was bad? We don't, what? And we just don't know what to say, right? Well, here's what you say. Number 1, Jesus did address homosexuality. He addressed it in Matthew chapter 5 and in Matthew chapter 19. Because in Matthew chapter 5 and Matthew chapter 19, he addressed the issue of marriage. He rooted his understanding of marriage in the teaching in Genesis chapter 2. The teaching in Genesis chapter 2 that gave us marriage between a man and a woman for the purposes of procreation, illustration, and sanctification. He also made it very clear that what man is joined together, what God has joined together, man cannot separate. In other words, God is the author of marriage, not man. Therefore, God is the one who defines marriage, not man. Therefore, man does not have the right to introduce the concept of same-sex marriage. Number 1, because by definition, it's not marriage, it's another thing. And number 2, because by definition, it goes against what was created in Genesis chapter 2. So Jesus did address homosexuality.
Do you feel that homosexuality is a sin?
You know, I can't honestly answer on that. I have too many people that I love that they are homosexual. I don't know. I can't say one way or the other. I'm not God. So when people ask questions like that, that's what my go-to is. I just say read the Bible and find out for yourself. And when you find out, let me know, because I'm learning too.
So if one of your kids, let's say one of your male sons, comes to you at 20, 23 years old and says, hey, Dad, this is my husband. We're engaged. We're going to get married next month, and I want you to be in the wedding.
Yeah.
What would you say?
My thing is like this. I don't, like, my brother's gay. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I don't condemn him. I don't look down on him for him being attracted to the opposite sex. You know what I'm saying? That's something.
Same sex.
Yeah, or the same sex, excuse me. I don't condemn him. You know what I'm saying? Like, if anything, we'll dialogue so that I can have a better understanding. Because I don't profess to be like, I got this all figured out. and I know the way this should be. Like, I'm trying to read the Bible, I'm trying to have conversations with people, and I'm trying to understand, you know,